Everybody. Today we're going to talk about providing and using collaborative feedback. We use peer review and the cycle of revision consistently throughout this class, and it's a practice that it's really good to get into using for other projects as well. Now, notice I didn't just say peer review, right? We have to do something in response to the feedback that we're getting in order to make it useful, right? So we're not just going to give feedback, but we're also going to think about how do we take action based on that feedback? What happens when we get the feedback? So one of the things to think about is that writing, just like all other conversations, requires listening to others. And that's why we have this process of understanding and planning, drafting, and then reflecting. The other thing to notice is in this class, we're going to focus on not just one type of feedback, but we're going to think about initial feedback on our early ideas, getting revised feedback on our first attempt at all of the required elements for a project, and then feedback on a final draft. And what does that feedback do on a final draft is really where you shift into the reflection, where you're transferring your process and strategies from this project into others, both for this class and in other situations as well. So the purpose of peer review is to help you gain a new perspective on your project. There are lots of reasons that we do peer review as a part of a writing class. And I won't go into all of those, but the biggest aspect that you gain is that you see someone else's project and you might go, oh, that's a really cool thing. I never thought about trying to do that in my own. Or, am I doing the project correctly? If I'm reading something that's significantly different, how do I make sure? Here are some questions I should ask. So as you read, you're not just thinking about how to answer the questions or how to check off the checklist, but you're also thinking about, I'm reading something that's supposed to be similar to mine. Is it wildly similar? Is it vastly different? Am I missing something? Is this person missing something? And how can we figure that out? So that's a part of peer review as well. So getting that new perspective. So one of the things that we think about in the feedback process is that in order to get feedback, we have to actually compose. And so that's a part of why in this class, your peer feedback comes after a revised draft where you have attempted at everything that you're trying to create for this project. So you're composing and you're submitting a draft saying, I am ready for someone else to look at this. I am ready to get feedback. I've tried everything I can to the best of my ability. Here are the things that I am looking for feedback on, okay? Once you've created everything for the project or for the essay or for the task is when you start thinking about revising, right? So revising is changing ideas on a large scale. You might move entire sections around. You might move paragraphs around. You're looking for the big issues. Does this essay, does this project, does this text accomplish what it's supposed to? And how can you help give feedback on the goal of the document, right? So in this class, we're working toward common goals. We're working on similar assignments. So you can kind of understand the goal of the document. And other projects or other classes, you might not. And so you have to ask, that could be a part of it. So this revising, giving feedback on the large scale things, right? There's also a component of editing when we think about feedback. So what are the sentence level issues? What is the tense, the tone, the paragraph? What is the style? And in this class, we're looking at MLA citation, paragraph length, those kinds of things, right? Then there's also a level of proofreading, looking for those final small scale things, typos, spelling, punctuation, those kinds of things. What's your final pre-submission check in accordance with what it is you're trying to accomplish? So our feedback process, starting from the initial feedback on a draft, on an initial draft, all the way to the final draft, you're going to have to think about what's the most important aspect at this point in the drafting process. So on an initial draft, you might really be looking for that revising stuff of, am I getting the goal, right? And then when you get into a more final stage, you might be looking at editing, proofreading. The other thing to think about is that if you are presented with a draft that is clear in the first stage, right? It's really got the large scale ideas. It really does make sense. Then you can pay attention to some of these other things, editing and proofreading. The other thing to think about is that if you're presented with a draft that doesn't get to this main idea, right? You're not ready to think about the revising elements, then the comments that you get back are going to be more large scale. And so sometimes students will say, oh, you didn't point that out to me in an earlier draft, right? The editing, proofreading stuff. Yes, that's totally true. I did not point out the small scale issues or the sentence level issues because we were still trying to address the large scale issues. And that's also part of why the writing process that we do is to go through this planning, drafting, feedback, revision stage a couple of times so that we can go from the large scale to the small scale. So as we start to think about peer review ourselves, right? What is the kind of feedback that you're going to give, right? You're both going to evaluate the text, right? And ask these questions and provide constructive feedback. So again, thinking about how you're not just going to say this is wrong, right? You want to say why it's wrong. Is it missing? Is it not what's expected? How can we change that, right? Think about your tone as you give that constructive feedback. You don't say this is wrong, right? You say, this is missing, or it could be stronger, right? It's also the strategy of moving from big to smaller issues. If you read a draft and they're not even getting to the point of the assignment, you really need to comment on that. And you don't just say, you've got all the parts, right? Or great job, there's no typos. Yeah, I mean, that might be true, but you're missing the point of being a strong peer reviewer if you're not giving the feedback that they need. So the purpose of revision, once you have the feedback, is to decide what you want to incorporate. What do you want to do about it? That, as an author, that is your decision. You get to decide what it is you're doing about the feedback and what you're taking in and what you're deciding to ignore, right? So once you have the feedback, you have to prioritize, right? So what are the strengths that someone has identified and what are the issues that are present? What are the large scale issues? What are the smaller scale things that might not be as important right now, right? One of the things that you also want to think about as you go into your revision is to think about the other tools in your toolbox that can help you guide your revisions, right? So assignments, rubrics or writer's checklist, any drafting activities, right? In this class especially, I've really designed all of the small, short activities so that it's focused on a strong final draft. If you've done the elements as you go through, that should help you too. So you might want to go back to the feedback I've given you in your drafting activities, right? Or that you've gotten from your peers in your drafting activities. And then also a style guide. Is it MLA? Is it APA? What style are you using? And how are you fitting in with that? So all of these things go into how do we provide and use collaborative feedback in a useful and helpful way as we go through our own writing process.